Well, hello and welcome to all of our Gold viewers here today. I'm Fiona Langsharp, IBCLC Director of Communications and MC here at Gold Learning. Well, welcome to everybody joining us here today. We're having a great late afternoon here with Jacqueline Kincer. We've just been going through some of the things that she's going to be sharing with all of you. That's right, coming up very soon at our Gold Learning Tongue Tie Symposium 2020. That's right, Jacqueline's going to be joining us here. She's got a fabulous presentation, Tongue Tied, Untied, Creating Functional Breastfeeding Outcomes. And there's a lot of conversation going on around this. So this is going to be a great topic that we're going to be talking about. But let's get into that in just a minute. We'll talk a lot about the topic. But first of all, I want to introduce you to Jacqueline Kincer. Jacqueline, welcome to Gold Learning. It's so great to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Fiona. It's a huge honor. I'm very excited to talk about this topic and just get to know everyone at the symposium.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we love to do all that collaborative work here, and I know that you love that too, and I know you'll be talking a little bit about it. But hey, why don't you tell everyone where you are in the world? Share a little bit what's happening with you right now. What are you doing? Are you practicing? Are you not? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am located in Phoenix, Arizona, in the United States. It is a hot desert-like location. And so we're staying indoors these days. It's August, it's summer. But the way my practice has changed over the years has been really interesting. When I started out, I just started as private practice doing home visits, and I would travel very far distances. I just thought I'll just serve whoever, needs it,
Yep,
and I would drive an hour and a half and,
go.
and go see someone. I don't really do that now, but I within I think maybe a little over a year of starting my practice, I got my first office space. That was wonderful. I grew a bit and took on a mentee, so I got a larger office space. That was great. And then last year, I towards the end of last year, there were some issues with the office space, and so I was looking for a new one. So I transitioned back to home visits for a bit, and then COVID happened. So I haven't really gone into a new office space just yet. I've also during this time been doing virtual online telehealth appointments
Right,
for at least the last few years. So it's not new to me. So the bulk of my practice now is
hmm,
telehealth,
right.
and then occasional home visits for those who need it. I also do work with a dentist who performs frenectomy. So there are many times where I'll do appointments in her office or sort of act as an assistant for the procedures as well.
Fabulous, fabulous. That's great. So you're keeping busy. I mean, you have a family as well that you're taking care of, and everybody's at home right now, right?
Yes. So yes, my husband works from home. He's always worked from home. So that's been interesting for me to basically be at home all the time. And then my children are 7 and 4, so I'm homeschooling them. And yes, it's a wild ride right now.
A day in the life of Jacqueline Kincer, keeping you very busy, I'm sure. Well, that's wonderful
Oh
to
yes.
hear. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the practice of tongue tie. And I want to know how it's impacted your particular practice, because I'm always curious that, was it a slow burn in your area? Like, when you started seeing clients with tongue tie, did it seem like it was an explosion already? And how did you get drawn into that? And I mean, I always find, like, how did you stay up to date with the information? So obviously this has obviously become a strong, part of your practice, but how did it all start out for you, Jacqueline?
That is such a good question. So part of the way I actually obtained my clinical hours had a lot to do with tongue tie. I
Mm.
was a La Leche League leader, but then I had an opportunity to work in a chiropractic doctor's office,
Oh, wow.
and she ran a tongue tie clinic with two other IBCLCs.
Hmm.
So initially, I think they just invited me to come check it out. Like, hey, you're a La Leche League leader. You might want to learn
Yeah.
more about tongue ties. And I don't know if I quite wanted to be an IBCLC yet, or was just thinking about it. I don't know if I had officially pursued it. So I would come and I would kind of volunteer and invite people to La Leche League meetings, and I would just observe. And then slowly the IBCLs were inviting me in, like, hey, come and help us with this baby and try some things out. And so I started getting some hands-on practice. We talked about, well, is there a way that this can be part of my clinical hours? And sure enough, there was. So I did a lot of hours in that clinic, which gave me this hands-on experience where I learned about ties in the real world. So it would either be, a mom and a baby coming in that had no idea they were tied, or maybe they had just had the frenectomy or frenotomy
Hmm.
done. And so they would come in and we would kind of assist them afterwards with getting breastfeeding going. And so I had a lot of great experience there. And then when I started my own practice, I was so used to having people to bounce things off of, and I didn't have to be the person who said this is what's going on and this is what we do. So now I'm in this role of, responsibility. And I just remember this thought, which I think a lot of us may have had, which is, could it really be that almost every baby I see is tied? And so I had all this doubt, and I would kind of him and ha and say, well, I'm not sure, but I'm going to refer you, go get a consultation with so and so, or and I think that was totally appropriate. But
Yeah.
now I'll see it and I'll just know, oh
Hmm.
yes, it is. And you have to be careful about saying those things. But
Sure.
I just I can't honestly tell you. It's been well over a year probably since I've seen a baby who wasn't tied. So it
Right.
is really all I see in my practice, and then all the complications that go along with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, and this just in itself, how many babies do you see with the tongue tie? That's a big conversation, because a lot of us are saying the same thing. When was the last time that you didn't see when you saw a baby that just had, normal feeding issues, that wasn't related to a tongue tie? And I know we're going to be getting into that conversation a little bit in your presentation, which is really fabulous because there's still so much that we really need to flush out in the field of tongue tie. Are you always amazed that, that there's all these changes sort of happening, in terms of what we are doing? Are you, do you see kind of the momentum of what's being created and then possibly maybe the lack of research? I don't know. Maybe you want to touch on that as well.
Yes, I feel like there's a divergence in some ways where there is this acceleration toward people who are really, getting training and education, and where there's a book out now called Tongue Tied, right? And there's a lot of social media happening, and
Hmm.
even older, people beyond babies, right? And I
That's
see
right.
dentists are
Yeah.
recognizing it, they're treating it. So it gives me so much hope. It's still the minority of healthcare professionals out there, so there's
Hmm.
that. And then there's the other side, and I feel like it happens more often when I encounter pediatricians who still say things like tongue tie is a fad, where is the research?
Right.
And there are more and more studies, but I would say it's an area of science and healthcare where I see the pace of studies coming out is relatively slow.
Hmm.
I would love to see so much more, but I also understand that doing a study is a big deal. It's not,
Totally.
we don't just write up a research report. And so there is a huge time investment. I know more is coming, and I'm excited for that. But I feel like there's either those of us who have, we see it, we encounter it, we do everything we can to take every course, read everything. And then there's the rest who just still sort of sit in denial. And there's just a big gap sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I think the struggle that we have is that, yeah, that there seems to be that we're coming together. We're making changes, we're adapting to the environments that we're in, but we're still looking for a lot of answers to our questions. I think it's really hard, and sometimes, it seems like we sort of turn the corner, we get some questions answered, and before you know it, someone's asking a whole another line of questions and you're like, wow, yeah, that's really important. I think the coming together, by far, is going to be one of the most important things that we do. And of course, that's why I love the tongue tie symposium so much, because we bring together all these professionals. And I'm not talking about just the speakers. I mean, I know how important you are, and valuable the information you're bringing to us. But Jacqueline, how much do you love having all the delegates come as well and sort of share their expertise as participants? I mean, that's got to be as rewarding to you as well, because I know that you love that type of collaboration.
I do. I love it. And, I've always loved the format of Gold. And, as much as I love in-person conferences, it's great to travel and meet people from all around the world. and that was something we can't do right now. So you've already got it all set up. But I love learning from everybody about what they're seeing, what they're experiencing, finding out just different settings and different professions, and there's even just different regulations in other countries and things that sometimes I'm just not aware of, and it's so wonderful to learn about that. And then someone may introduce me to a technique or a treatment or something I've never heard of before,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I learned so much from the people that I have the honor to teach, and it amazes me. It really does. And I've taught midwifery school students.
Wow.
I've taught my own sort of business coaching program, and I just
Right.
every time I just love to create a collaboration of, hey, you know something about this and you know something about that, and let's all share our resources. So it's wonderful to have a forum like this to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm excited too. This is definitely one of the highlights of my year because I still get so many inquiries from families, just like you do, and we want to be able to provide them the best and the most up-to-date information. So it's going to be a wonderful time coming together. So let's just talk about your title one more time, Tongue-Tied, Untied, Creating Functional Breastfeeding Outcomes. Is this just something that I mean, I love the title, but tell me, is this something that this is just something you just really wanted to create, like this awareness and time together so that we could try to move forward in a sense with those tongue ties?
Yes, for me, what I find that my primary role now when my practice when I work with clients is really helping them create the function. So they may be clued in that there is a tongue tie, they know that the structure needs to change, but they don't know yet how to get breastfeeding to go from dysfunctional to functional. And I see a lot of my colleagues struggle with that as well. And so I really want to provide the information that I've learned over the years from colleagues from my own practice to really help all of us help the families that need our help. So what I mean by that is sometimes I'll see, and it's not bad or good. It's wonderful when let's say an IBCLC for instance can recognize there may be a tie here. Let me refer, but then sometimes they don't know really what to do after the fact, other than just help with
Absolutely.
the milk supply or the pumping or the nipple shield or other things like that. And so what I found is when we work closely with the dyad of the parent and the child, we can do things to create functional breastfeeding that then ultimately eliminate the need for what I call training wheels. So things like nipple shields or special positions or breast supplementers or you name it, right? Whatever lactation intervention we want to introduce. So what I find when people come to me and they want to work with me is they don't want to use those things. They don't want to be having to pump after every feed and supplement and triple feed and do all these things. And I know that so many of these families that we're working with really don't want to do those things. So how do we make breastfeeding easy without all the other add-ons? And sometimes we still need those, right?
Yeah.
But most of the time I do find we can really get away from those things. And so my presentation is really about how do we create functional breastfeeding? What's the difference there? Because while any breastfeeding is wonderful, any breastfeeding isn't just good breastfeeding. And so what I
Right.
want to help us create is really good breastfeeding.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about the client that I saw most recently. I'm thinking about, that, yeah, it's true. It becomes, at some point, it becomes so complex in essence for them and sad. And they've got to go through it's a fairly big process. They've often been in pain and so getting the procedure done, like all those things, let's get them back to where it feels functional, it feels right, and they've got some real tangible things that they're actually working on that feels like they're making progress. I just love that. So thank you, Jacqueline. It's going to be good, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that you said that too, because I think it's important that we're able to inform the people that we're working with how things are getting better, right?
Yes.
So we might be able to see it, but if we can show them, well, your baby had this latch before and now they have this latch, those
Yes.
kinds of things are so empowering and keep them going on their
Yeah.
journeys.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. No, this is great. I'm really excited. I'm just so happy. We're able, like I said, to come together and do this symposium. So, and you are going to be joining us Monday, September 14th. Now, for all of our viewers that are listening in right now, don't forget to go to the website. goldlearning.com. Check out the time zone. The reason I mentioned the date, of course, that Jacqueline's going to be with us is because she's going to be live. And that means that she's going to be here answering questions. She's got a fabulous presentation. I've had a sneak peek, but I know that there's going to be some great questions in there too. So there'll be some collaborative work that we're doing together. And of course, the live Q&A. If, of course, you can't make it to the live event, do not worry. Jacqueline's going to be on our forums as well with all of our other presenters and, of course, delegates from around the world. Big thank you to Jacqueline Kincer for being here with us today. It's been lovely chatting with you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to all of you listening in again. Once again, don't forget you can register on our website right now at goldlearning.com for our up and coming Gold Learning Tongue Tie Symposium 2020. We can't wait to see you there. If you've got any comments or questions, you can post them in below there in the chat box, and we'll look forward to chatting with you all online. See you all soon. Bye bye for now.